Hey folks, welcome back to Legacy of Old Age. Ever caught a whiff of something that made you pause, a scent that whispers the years gone by, but carries a weight no one talks about? It's the smell of old age, and for us old-timers, it can be scarier than a creaky floorboard in the dead of night. It's not just about the odor, it's the fear of being judged, the worry of being pushed away, the silent ache of feeling less than you used to be. How scary is the smell of old age really? Today, we're peeling back the layers of a topic that's often swept under the rug, with stories that'll tug at your heart, make you nod in understanding, and maybe even give you a chuckle or two. Stick with me, because I've got tales that'll show you the struggles behind the scent and a few tricks from the old days with a modern twist to help us all feel a little fresher, inside and out. In the miles ahead, you'll hear about a sweet widow who hid from the world because of her scent, a proud farmer who felt the sting of being pushed away, a spunky gal whose family showed her the way, and a straight talk from my own pop that opened my eyes to the truth. So grab a cup of coffee or whatever you sipped back when the air smelled sweeter and settle in, folks. This road's got some turns worth taking. It all started a few summers back when I stopped by Mrs. Mabel's place down in Tennessee. She lived in a little clapboard house off a dirt road, the kind with a sagging porch and a garden out back that'd make your mouth water, tomatoes red as a barn, beans climbing high on their poles. Mabel was 82, with a laugh that'd warm you up faster than a July sun, and a knack for baking pies that'd win any county fair. I'd known her for years. She'd been a school teacher, raised 3 kids on her own after her husband passed, and always had a kind word for everyone. But that summer, when I knocked on her screen door with a jar of my mama's peach preserves, I found her sitting in her rocking chair, staring out at the garden with a look I'd never seen before, a mix of shame and sadness that cut right through me. "Mabel," I said, setting the jar down on her checkered tablecloth, "what's got you so down?" The air smelled of cinnamon and dust, and her old tabby cat, Whiskers, was curled up at her feet, purring softly. She didn't look at me, just kept her eyes on the garden, and whispered, "I don't go to church no more." I blinked, caught off guard. Mabel had always been the first one at the pews, singing hymns louder than anyone. "Why not?" I asked, pulling up a chair. She sighed, her hands trembling as she smoothed her apron, and said, "I smell sun. I can't get rid of it no matter how much I wash, how much powder I use. I see folks wrinkling their noses, stepping back. I can't bear the thought of 'em judging me, so I just stay home." I sat there, folks, feeling my heart sink like a stone in a well. Mabel wasn't just talking about a scent. She was talking about a fear that had taken root deep inside her, a fear of being seen as less, of losing the respect she'd spent a lifetime earning. She told me how it started a few years back, after her arthritis got worse, and she couldn't scrub as hard as she used to. "It's like my body's betraying me," she said, her voice cracking. "I don't want to be the old lady folks whisper about." I reached out, took her hand, and felt the weight of her words. The smell of old age wasn't just a physical thing. It was a burden on her soul. Ever known someone who felt ashamed of their scent, folks? Or maybe you've caught a whiff that made you wonder. Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. That day with Mabel got me thinking about why this happens to us old-timers, and I started digging. Turns out, the smell of old age comes from changes in our bodies. Our skin makes more of a compound called 2-non-N-al as we get older, and it's harder to wash away. Add in things like slower healing, less sweat, and meds that change how we smell, and it's no wonder folks like Mabel struggle. But there's a trick from the old days with a modern spin. Back when I was a kid, we'd say a good soak keeps the stink away, and now the docs say a daily shower with a gentle soap something with oatmeal or aloe can help, along with keeping your clothes fresh and your room aired out. Mabel's story was just the beginning, and it set me on a path to learn more about the struggles behind the scent. Mabel's story stuck with me like the scent of her cinnamon kitchen. Folks, that image of her sitting on her porch, too ashamed to go to church because of her smell, kept playing in my mind like an old record on repeat. It got me wondering how many other old-timers were carrying the same burden, hiding from the world because of a scent they couldn't control. I didn't have to wonder long, because not 2 months after I left Mabel's place, I heard about Mr. Hank down in Georgia, a proud man who'd felt the sting of being pushed away, all because of the smell of old age. Hank lived on a small farm just outside Macon, the kind of place where the air smells of hay and honeysuckle, and the fields stretch out like a patchwork quilt under the summer sun. He was 76, built like a barn door, even after all those years, with a laugh that'd shake the leaves off a tree. Hank had been a farmer his whole life, raised hogs, grew peanuts, and could fix a tractor blindfolded with nothing but a wrench and a prayer. He was a regular at the local diner, always at the counter with a cup of black coffee, swapping stories with the other old-timers about the good old days. But that spring, when I stopped by his place to drop off a sack of pecans I'd picked up for him, he loved them in his pies, I found him sitting alone on his porch, staring out at the fields with a look of defeat I'd never seen before. "Hank," I said, setting the pecans down on a rickety table, "what's got you so quiet? You're usually talking my ear off about them hogs." The air smelled of fresh-cut grass and a hint of something sharper, something I couldn't quite place. He didn't look at me, just kept his eyes on the horizon, and said, "Ain't been to the diner in weeks." I pulled up a chair, the wood creaking under me, and waited. Hank wasn't one to open up easy, but I could tell something was eating at him. Finally, he sighed, heavy as a sack of feed, and said, "Folks don't want to sit near me no more." I heard him whispering say, "I smell like an old barn. I scrub till my skin's raw, but it don't help. I can't take the looks, so I just stay here." I sat there, folks, feeling a lump in my throat the size of a peach pit. Hank wasn't just talking about a scent, he was talking about the pain of being pushed away, of losing the camaraderie that had kept him going all these years. He told me how it started a year back, after he'd had a bout of shingles that left him too weak to keep up with his usual chores. "I can't wash like I used to," he said, his voice low. "My hands shake, and the soap don't do much no more. I see 'em at the diner, folks I've known for decades, scooting their stools away, wrinkling their noses. I'd rather be alone than feel like that." I looked at Hank, his big hands clenched in his lap, and saw the loneliness in his eyes, the kind that cuts deeper than any knife. Ever felt the sting of folks pulling away, folks? Or maybe you've seen someone you love struggle with the same fear. Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear how you handled it. That day with Hank broke my heart, but it lit a fire in me to learn more about how to help us old-timers face this without losing our dignity. I started digging, and I found that the smell of old age isn't just about hygiene, it's about how folks see us and how we see ourselves. The docs say it's not our fault our bodies change, and sometimes we can't help the scent, but the way folks react can make it worse. They call it ageism, and it's a real thing, making us feel like we don't belong just because of how we smell. But there's a trick from the old days with a modern spin to help us through. Back when I was a kid, we'd say a good friend don't mind the smell of your barn. And now I say, don't let the whispers get you down. Talk to the folks you trust. Let them know what you're going through, and keep showing up. For the scent itself, the docs say to try a little baking soda in your bath. It's gentle, cheap, and can help with that stubborn odor. And if you can't wash as well as you'd like, a damp cloth with a bit of vinegar can do wonders for those hard-to-reach spots. Hank's story wasn't the end of what I'd learned, and it got me wondering how others found their way through this quiet struggle. Hank's story left a bitter taste in my mouth. Folks like sipping coffee that had gone cold. His loneliness over being pushed away at the diner lingered long after I left his farm. It got me wondering how others found their way through this quiet struggle, the kind that comes with the smell of old age and the fear of being judged. I'd seen Mabel hide from the world, watched Hank retreat from the folks he loved, and I couldn't help but hope there was a brighter side to this tale, a way to face the scent without losing your place in the community. That's when I heard about Miss Betty, a spunky gal from Alabama whose family showed her a path through the shame, proving that love can be stronger than any whisper. Miss Betty lived in a tidy little bungalow on the edge of Montgomery, the kind of place where the front yard's always blooming with azaleas and the mailboxes painted with sunflowers she did herself. She was 74, with a laugh like a wind chime and a knack for knitting scarves so soft you'd swear they were made of clouds. Betty was a firecracker. She'd been a nurse during the Korean War, raised 4 boys on her own, and could still outdance anyone at the church social, even with her bad hip. I'd known her for years, always seeing her at the county fair with her famous lemon squares, the kind that'd make your mouth pucker and your heart sing. But that fall, when I stopped by her booth to pick up a square, I could tell something was off. Her usual sparkle was dim, like a lantern running low on oil. "Betty," I said, brushing crumbs off my shirt, "you look like you've seen a ghost. What's eating you?" She sighed, heavy as a sack of feed, and motioned me to sit on a bench nearby, the air thick with the smell of cotton candy and hay. "I don't come to the fair much no more," she said, her voice trembling. "Folks been talking, say I smell like an old attic. I heard 'em at the knitting club, whispering behind my back. I can't stand the thought of 'em pitying me, so I stay home most days." I looked at Betty, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her apron, and felt a pang in my chest. Here was another old-timer, pushed to the sidelines by a scent she couldn't control. But Betty's story didn't end there. Folks not like Mabel's or Hank's. She told me how her grandkids had noticed her pulling away, how they'd seen the sadness in her eyes when she skipped the family barbecue last summer. "My oldest grandson, Tommy," she said, a small smile breaking through. "He sat me down one day and said, 'Grandma, we don't care how you smell, we love you, and we ain't letting you hide.' They started coming over more, helping me wash up, bringing me soaps that smell like lavender and honey. They even got me to the doctor. Turns out I had a skin infection making things worse. Once that cleared up, I felt like myself again. I sat there, the sound of the fair buzzing around us, and watched as Betty's sparkle came back, her eyes lighting up as she talked about her family. Folks, my heart swelled like a balloon. Betty's grandkids had done what no soap could, washing away her shame with love and understanding. They'd shown her that the smell of old age didn't have to mean the end of her place in the world, and they'd helped her find a way to feel fresh again. Ever had a family member lift you up when you felt low, folks? Or maybe you've helped someone through a struggle like this. Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. That day with Betty taught me a trick from the old days with a modern spin. Back when I was a kid, we'd say family sticks closer than stink on a skunk. And now I say, don't be afraid to lean on your loved ones. Let 'em help with the washing, the doctor visits, whatever you need to feel your best. For the scent itself, the docs say it's often tied to health like Betty's infection, or even diet and meds. Eating less garlic and onions can help, and drinking more water keeps your skin from drying out, which can make the smell worse. If you're worried, a quick check with your doc can catch things like infections or imbalances that might be adding to the problem. Betty's family didn't just help her smell better, they helped her shine again. And her story got me wondering what the docs had to say about why this scent happens in the first place. Betty's story warmed my heart like a sunny day in spring. Folks seeing her sparkle come back thanks to her family's love showed me that the smell of old age doesn't have to mean the end of your shine. But it got me wondering what the docs had to say about why this scent happens in the first place, and how we can tackle it without losing our dignity. I'd heard Mabel's shame, felt Hank's loneliness, and seen Betty's redemption, but I still didn't have the full picture, the kind of straight talk that'd help us old-timers understand what's going on with our bodies. That's when I turned to my own pop, a man who'd been wrestling with his own worries about the smell of old age, and a visit to his doctor that finally gave me the clarity I'd been chasing. Pop lived in that same little house outside Springfield, Missouri, where the blackberry bushes still grew wild and the porch creaked under every step. He was 83, with a voice that growled like an old diesel engine and a laugh that'd make you forget your troubles. Pop had always been a big man, round as a barrel, with a belly that had earned him the nickname Big Hank down at the diner, but he'd never been one to fuss about his looks. That is, until a few months back, when I found him on the porch one evening, rocking in his chair with a mug of coffee in hand, the air smelling of wood smoke and the last of the summer flowers. "I'm getting old," he said, his brow furrowed deeper than a plowed field. "Folks at the barber shop been talking, say I smell like an old barn. I don't want to be that fella, but I don't know what to do." I sat there, folks, feeling a pang in my chest. Pop had always been the strongest man I knew, and hearing him worry about something like this cut me deep. I'd promised Mabel, Hank, and Betty I'd find answers, and now I had to keep that promise for Pop too. He had a checkup coming up with Doc Evans, our family sawbones in Tulsa, and I tagged along, figuring I'd get the straight dope from someone who'd seen it all. Doc's office was a cozy little place, with a waiting room that smelled of antiseptic and old magazines, and a desk piled high with papers. Doc himself was a weary fella, 65, with a mustache that'd make a walrus jealous, and a laugh that'd put you at ease. He'd been looking after Pop for years, and when we sat down in his exam room, I got right to the point. "Doc," I said, "Pop's worried about his smell, says folks are talking. Why's this happening, and what can we do?" Doc leaned back in his chair, stroking that mustache, and gave me a look that said he'd heard this question 1,000 times. "It's a real thing," he said, his voice steady as a preacher's. "The smell of old age comes from a few places, and it's not your fault." He pulled out a chart, pointing to things I couldn't make heads or tails of, and broke it down. As we age, our skin makes more of a compound called 2-non-enal. It's what gives that old scent, and it's harder to wash off. Add in slower healing, less sweat, and sometimes meds that change how you smell, and it's a perfect storm. Pop's got a bit of arthritis too, so he can't scrub as well as he used to. That makes it worse. I nodded, glancing at Pop, who was listening with a frown. "But it ain't just that," Doc went on. "Diet, infections, even stress can play a part. And sometimes it's not as bad as folks think. They just notice it more because of what they expect from old age." I sat there, folks, the hum of the air conditioner filling the quiet, and let that sink in. Pop shifted in his chair, His big hands clenched and said, "So what do I do, Doc?" "I don't want to be the fella folks avoid." Doc smiled, a twinkle in his eye, and said, "First off, don't let it get you down, you're still Big Hank, and that's what counts. But there's things you can do." He leaned forward, ticking off on his fingers. "Keep up with your hygiene. A daily shower with a gentle soap, like one with oatmeal or aloe, can help. If you can't scrub, use a washcloth with a bit of baking soda. It's a natural deodorizer. Drink more water to keep your skin hydrated, and watch your diet: less garlic and onions, more fruits like apples and berries. And if you're worried, let's check for infections or imbalances. Sometimes a little cream or a change in meds can make a big difference." Pop let out a big sigh, his shoulders relaxing for the first time all day, and grinned at me. "Guess I'll keep my coffee," he said, "but I'll cut back on the garlic bread." I couldn't help but laugh. Folks, that was Pop, always finding a way to keep his spirits high. But Doc's words stuck with me, and I started digging deeper into what the science says. Turns out, the smell of old age isn't just about hygiene. It's about our bodies changing in ways we can't always control. And sometimes it's about how folks see us, too. The docs say stress can make it worse. When we're worried about our scent, we sweat more, and that adds to the problem. Ever had a doc's advice change the way you see things, folks? Or maybe you've got a trick for feeling fresh, no matter your age? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. That day with Doc taught me a trick from the old days with a modern spin. Back when I was a kid, we'd say a good wash and a good laugh keep the blues away. And now the docs say to pair the daily shower with a little self-care, like a soothing lotion after your bath, or a cup of mint tea to calm your nerves. Pop left that office with a spring in his step, and his relief got me thinking about how we can all find ways to face this scent without fear, and maybe even help others along the way. Doc's straight talk in that exam room was like a warm breeze on a chilly morning. Folks, it swept away the fog and gave me a clear view of what the smell of old age really means for us old-timers. I'd seen Mabel hide from the world, her shame keeping her from the church she loved. Watched Hank retreat from the diner because of whispers that cut deeper than a knife. Felt Betty's sparkle come back with her family's love. And sat with Pop as he wrestled with his own fears, only to find relief in Doc's wisdom. Each story added a piece to the puzzle, and by the time I walked out of Doc's office, the sun dipping low over Tulsa, I knew the truth. The smell of old age can be scary, but it doesn't have to be not if we face it with understanding. A little know-how and a whole lot of heart. Let's roll it back and look at the road we've traveled, folks. There's Mabel, sweet as her Tennessee tomatoes, sitting on her porch with a handkerchief full of tears, too ashamed to go to church because of her scent. I can still see her there, the garden blooming behind her, her voice trembling as she spoke of folks stepping back. Then Hank, out by his Georgia barn, his big hands clenched in defeat, pushed away from the diner he loved because of whispers about his smell. I'll never forget the loneliness in his eyes, the way he stared at the fields like they were all he had left. Miss Betty, spunky as ever, finding her way back to the county fair in Alabama, her sparkle renewed by her grandkids' love, their lavender soaps and doctor visits washing away her shame. I can still hear her laugh, bright as a wind chime, as she told me how they brought her back to life. And Pop, my own Big Hank, sitting on his Springfield porch with a coffee in hand, learning from Doc that the smell of old age wasn't his fault, and that a little baking soda and a lot of laughter could keep him going strong. I can still see his grin as he said, "Guess I'll keep my coffee," a weight lifting off his shoulders. They're all different, ain't they? Mabel's a widow with a heart of gold. Hank's a farmer who'd rather talk to his hogs than face a crowd. Betty's a firecracker who'd dance circles around us all. And Pop's a stubborn old cuss who'd rather eat gravy than worry about his scent. But they've all taught me one thing: the smell of old age can be scary, but it's the fear of being judged that cuts the deepest. I got to thinking, if they can find a way through, so can we, and I'll be darned if I don't share what I've learned to help every old-timer out there face this with their head held high. So let's round up some tricks from the old days with a modern twist to keep us feeling fresh, inside and out. First off, don't let the whispers get you down. Back when I was a kid, we'd say a good friend, don't mind the smell of your barn. And now I say, don't hide from the world. Talk to the folks you trust, your kids, your grandkids, your neighbors, and let them know what you're going through. They can help with the washing, the doctor visits, or just a kind word to lift your spirits. The docs say stress makes the smell worse. When we're worried, we sweat more, and that adds to the problem, so a little love can go a long way to calm your nerves. Second, keep up with the basics, even if it's hard. Mabel and Hank struggled to wash like they used to, but there's ways to make it easier. Back in the day, we'd say a good soak keeps the stink away, and now the docs say a daily shower with a gentle soap, something with oatmeal or aloe, can help with that stubborn scent. If you can't scrub, use a washcloth with a bit of baking soda. It's a natural deodorizer, cheap as dirt and gentle on old skin. And don't forget your clothes, keep them fresh. Air out your room, and maybe try a little vinegar in the laundry to cut through the odor. The docs say drinking more water helps, too, keeps your skin hydrated, which can lessen the smell, and eating less garlic and onions can make a difference. And here's the best trick of all, folks, don't be afraid to see your doc. Pop's visit showed me how much a checkup can help, and Betty's family proved it too. Back when I was young, we'd go to the doc when the cows came home. But now I say go if you're worried. They can check for infections, imbalances, or meds that might be adding to the scent. Sometimes a little cream or a change in your pills can make a big difference, and they can give you tips tailored just for you. It's like tuning up your tractor. You gotta know what's under the hood to keep it running smooth. What's your trick for feeling fresh, folks? Ever found a way to face the scent without fear, or helped someone through it with a kind word? Drop it in the comments. Your stories are the gold here, and they might just help someone else find their way. Hit that like button if these tales hit home. Smash subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss what's next. There's more wisdom waiting just around the bend. Share this with a friend who'd get a kick out of it. Let's keep the conversation going and keep our spirits high. I've got more stories to share, so stick with me. We're not done yet.